Do you want some advice on parental rights? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education. And in this video, we're talking about parental rights. In this video, we're going to be talking about some of the confusion around parental rights around the world. We're also going to be talking about how you can really lead out in your home culture and strengthen your family against all of those things that are going on, while also making sure that you maintain everyone's rights. So why is there so much confusion about parental rights and children's rights? Well, that's because it's actually in recent decades become a larger part of the conversation of our culture. Prior to 1989, most people were not talking about children's rights. In fact, it was just understood that parents had the right to raise their children however they saw fit. But then in 1989, the UN signed into action a document called the UNCRC. The Convention on the Rights of the Child happened at that time, and they agreed upon a document at the UN level that said that children have 45 rights. Now, of course, every country had to ratify this document and decide whether they were going to actually implement the document. However, many of the countries in the world did choose to ratify the document and fully implement it. At this point, the United States has not ratified that document, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. But that hasn't stopped the ideas in the UNCRC document from actually starting to infiltrate into the United States culture. And there are many people that think that the ideas that are in that UNCRC document, those 45 rights that are supposedly assigned to children, are actually in force, even though they are not. So what are some of these rights? Let's talk about that, and then let's talk about what real rights parents actually have now that we know about the UNCRC. I'm not going to go through all 45 rights in the UNCRC document. You can actually look those up yourself, but some of the rights include things like the rights to a public education. Well, that sounds great because we want everybody to have access to an education. However, what the UNCRC language does is actually suggest that maybe a private education or a home education might not actually be legal. And so we see in some countries around the world that parents don't have a lot of education choice for their children, where in the United States, we have a lot of parent choice in education. In fact, there's a greater movement right now that's even increasing parents' choice in education, especially since 2020, when everyone went home for home education and everyone thought, this isn't actually a bad idea. So some more rights that might be interesting to you in this UNCRC document that are targeted rights at children are rights like a right to be medicated by the government, a right to freedom from religion. So if your parents want you to go to church, you may not have to. And other things related to travel. You may not have to travel if you don't want to, but your parents want you to. Rights to technology, sexual rights, those types of things. In the United States, those rights are not actually acknowledged at all. So in the United States, we adhere to the more historical rights that the world used to always broadly accept as far as parental rights, because we feel and have always felt in this country that one of the best rights that you can give to a child is that they have a parent that watches over them, because there is no one that has more of their interests at heart than their very own parents who brought them into this world. Now, that is not to say that there aren't some parents who couldn't do a little bit better, but that's a conversation for another day. So let's talk about these parental rights. What do these parental rights entail? So some of the parental rights include things like the right to choose how your child is educated, or even if your child gets an education at all. Now, true, I think socially it would be frowned upon if you chose not to provide some sort of education for your children. I think it's assumed that every good parent would want that for their child, so they're going to provide it in one way or another. Another thing that you have rights over are technology for your child. Do you want your child to see screens or not see screens? Do you want to take them to the movies or not? Do you want them to have a digital device like a phone or a tablet or not? You get to choose. There's no rule that says that your child must have those devices, no matter what the child tells you. It's not their right to have a phone or an iPad or something like that just because their friends have one. You also have parental rights to take your children on trips. I mean, sometimes there's certain court orders related to divorces or something where you have to notify other parents, but by and large, families can just travel and do whatever they want and not have to notify anyone. Also, parents have a right to oversee the medical care of their children. So this means that the government cannot force medication or medical procedures, vaccines, or otherwise upon children. It is up to the parents to decide whether they want to do those things for their children or not. So hopefully the parents are doing their research and deciding. Hopefully the parents are feeding their children in healthy ways and looking into all that kind of stuff, because the government cannot tell you what you have to feed your child either. The government can say what maybe should be served at a school lunch, if it wants to. Most states don't get that involved. They might say make it healthy, make sure it's got some major food groups in it, but they're not going to really dictate. But generally, they shouldn't have to say anything at all because the parents are technically in control. But especially outside of school, parents can pick whatever they want to feed their children. Probably one of the biggest rights that you have is to raise your children according to your values and beliefs. So long as those values and beliefs don't endanger the health and well-being of the child in any way, meaning that like if you're part of some belief culture where you would take your child to be abused by other people, obviously, that is now no longer going to be seen as a right. But if you're just going to church, reading good books to your children, discussing them, you're having those regular conversations that parents have always had with their children, then you are totally within your rights within the United States. Now, saying that, it's really important to note that there have been places in the world and times in history where parents have not been allowed to even give a religious or moral training to their children. When certain regimes have taken over certain countries, they have removed all religious literature and restricted any type of religious or moral training to children, even from their parents. So, where you live could make a big difference on what type of rights that you have, especially if there's some conflict going on or some type of government structure that might require you to have limited rights in that country. Understanding your rights as a parent is incredibly important. When you understand what you can choose for your child, then hopefully you'll be more inspired and empowered to take good, deliberate action. Your children need parents who are fully invested, who understand that they have a need. They have a need to learn from you. That's one of their basic roles, is they are learners, you are teachers. So how can you do that in order to create a good cultural atmosphere in your family where you've got strong family bonds and you can combat what's going on in the outside world? I'm hoping to help you learn some simple strategies of governance, family governance in your home, where you can have your rights and authorities honored by your children. I know they're pushing back all the time, especially the older they get, the more they start to feel a little autonomous, the more society is giving them misinformation about their roles, about your roles, and about their rights and your rights. But if you just have a couple of simple strategies that you have laid as a foundation for your family, then hopefully you can lead with confidence in these times, even when the children are pushing back against your rights and authority as a parent. So this entire channel is called the Teaching Self-Government channel. Teaching self-government is a type of parenting that I teach all over the world. There's books, trainings, courses. We'll talk more about that in a minute, that are designed to help parents understand how to govern themselves and to help them teach their children how to govern themselves. And this whole structure has a foundation of good family communication and problem solving. What the family needs more than anything is attachment and bonding. If the family doesn't have proper attachment, they won't be able to solve their problems together. Now, one of the key things that leads to good attachment for a family is good communication skills. And what you do in order to prepare to have good communication skills is you teach those skills ahead of time. So what types of skills do you teach the children? You will want to teach them probably the 4 basic skills. These 4 basic skills include following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. When a person learns the steps to these 4 basic skills, that takes care of 99% of their behavioral problem. But the solution to really creating that good family dynamic does not stop with the child learning a few skills. They also need to know your skills, and you need to have some good parenting skills in play that keep you calm, understanding, connected, even if you happen to be doing a correction. That's right, you can feel closer to your child during and after a correction than you even did before. Many people make home environments too negative. This encourages the children to listen to outside influences and start to turn on their family. Their parents become their enemy instead of their allies and their advocates, which is what they really are. So we need to have a type of parenting that helps prepare us to be great advocates for our children. And I have something to help you do just that. So if you go to my website, teachingselfgovernment.com, and you go to the shop page, you will see that there's something called the TSG Parenting course. This 10-module course will take you through the steps of learning the skills and principles of self-government so that you and the children can be calm and connected in all of your communication, which will help maintain your roles and your rights, and their rights too. Click on teachingselfgovernment.com today. I'll see you there.